Howls belting from the riveting throat of hungry hounds urged him further. The forest branches created gored gashes across Brandon's arms and face, yet the prospect of being captured pushed him to ignore the pain. He broke through the tree line into an open road, its sides lined by glowing hearths hidden within the safety of homes. Oxygen returned to his tired lungs as he checked his bag, and only for a moment he could rest. Yet it was a moment too long as large paws slammed into his back. Any air once gathered was forced from his chest as he was pushed onto the road. The contents of his bag spilled into the street, sliding across the slick stone and stopping under the boot of the local constable. Picking it up and holding it in the moonlight, he read the title aloud. Material's Price of Redemption is a pamphlet that was banned during the colonial era of Massachusetts. It held ideas explained that anyone could get into heaven based on their faith alone. This contradicted the current teachings of the church. In response, they banned the pamphlet and burned any copies. Only 2 remain today. We see more examples of extreme book banning later on in history within the boundaries of Germany under the tyrannical rule of Adolf Hitler. While enforcing their propaganda, the Nazi Party took up the nasty habit of arson, the favorite fuel, literacy. On May 10th, 1933, an act of Germanic unity would take place. Fanatic German students holding Nazi teachings in their hearts were gathered 25,000 books and set them ablaze. The news spread more quickly than the rhetoric-fueled flames. More and more students gathered books and set them on fire. These fire oaths pertain to materials deemed un-German, which of course included any philosophical works by Jews, or any works that oppose the German ideas. One of the main victims of these fire oaths was Karl Marx, his writings becoming ashes drifting on the wings of the wind. Although these examples are in the world's more extreme history, book banning is alive and well today in a new form. According to PolitiFact, those who ban books define it narrowly as a total removal of books. However, this new surge is not banning, but simply restricting access to, because these books are non-existent only in public schools, public libraries, and select sellers, but are available to the public in other means. Thus, the term book ban and banned book will be defined as the removal of a book within public schools, libraries, and other select sellers. But what is being removed? The answer is books, but in the largest sense, literacy itself. The banning on books is on the rise in schools and public libraries, as stated before. In some states, following the leadership of their governors, parents have been empowered to review books and decide what children can and can't read in schools. According to the American Library Association and their book ban data piece, public library books challenges decreased by 46% in 2022 to 2023, while school library challenges decreased by 11% in that same time period. Students have voiced their displeasure. Authors have written articles explaining their pain, and teachers have made their struggles known. However, this same surge has led to the explosion of books containing extreme ideas and scenes that will be harmful to children. Something must be done. Something that still removes books containing inappropriate materials, yet allows students to still be able to grasp the realities out of the scopes of their lives. Balance must be found between the extremes of everything and the laziness of nothing. To protect the minds of young readers in schools and libraries, a limited form of book banning is necessary. This thesis will show this to be true by defining book banning, by discussing the productive removal of objectionable books, and proposing changes to lessen the harm done. Definitions, especially about a widely debated topic, are important. Thus, the definition of book banning is needed. There's a lot of misunderstanding around the subject. It's a term that brings about images of fires and books being thrown from shelves, as described earlier in my introduction. Yet these pictures are deeply rooted in history, and modern book banning is nothing of the sort. Previous surges sought to remove books from the public's eyes entirely. However, the present form only seeks to take certain books down within libraries and schools. As described by Susan L. Webb, the writer for Free Speech Center, book banning occurs when private individuals, government officials, or organizations remove books primarily designated for children, libraries, schools, and although it rarely happens, bookstores. When the word removed or banned is mentioned, It does not mean the book has been out of, taken out of the state. It has been placed under restriction behind a locked door. It means it's been taken out of a library or a school. Some of the notable figures and organizations of this new surge includes Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the Governor of Iowa Kim Reynolds, the organization Moms for Liberty, and even Cancel Culture, which is a group of people that withdraws support from others and even attacks them due to their opinions or actions the group views as unjust. Together, these new forces have constructed a new form of book banning. Like the definition, there's a heavy fog surrounding the actual content of what's being banned. Many, myself included, thought it was a plight dedicated to the erasure of history that was deemed offensive. Mainly materials pertaining to that of slavery and the like. Yet books are banned for many reasons. The main ones being racist content, nudity, LGBTQ+, rhetoric/characters, and profanity. Those who ban such books are doing so to protect the innocence in the minds of students, which is the admirable reason. Sexually inappropriate material has been found on the shelves of school libraries and classrooms. The new wave of book banning has begun to remove them, and rightfully so. An example is given by Taylor Penley, an associate editor with Fox News. She calls upon the book Flamer, a semi-biographical graphic novel written by Mike Creato. It caught the attention of parents in Dearborn, Michigan. In this coming-of-age story, the explicit pornographic and materials were described within its covers. Such content including extensive mentions and scenes caused the mother to read select passages to the school board to get her point across. She then went on to state that she knew that the rights as parents were being infringed upon, and that she would keep the book out of the hands of high school students no matter what it took. The school board was shocked and reacted by having the mother stop her reading, and yet her bravery was rewarded, for the book was banned from multiple libraries and schools since. Another example of inappropriate material can be found in an article by Max Eden and Jay Green. It recounts the tale of a graphic novel iteration of Anne Frank's diary. It held sexually unnecessary descriptions that were never in the original writings. Yet Randy Weingarten, the president of one of the largest teachers' unions in America, would try to spin it if the Texas teacher was a hero for asking her 8th grade students to read aloud and discuss sexual passages between two girls within the graphic novel's pages. The teacher was subsequently fired. The book was banned from many schools and libraries. There are many, many more examples of books not being made for the eyes of students. Parents armed with a voice are using their powers to push for action, to demand it. They have taken dozens of books that had no place in a school out of the sight of impressionable students. This is proof of the positive effect book banning has. One of the most objectionable types of books that has been brought to the light is that of the LGBTQ+ content within schools, libraries, and children's sections in public libraries. However, some will argue that by completely removing such books from schools and public libraries, we are inhibiting parents from teaching their children about that content using literature to help them understand. In a time where more and more examples of gender identity and sexual orientation are brought to light, they say it is helpful to have resources and examples like those such books provide. Samantha Lane gives a testimony of Skylar Blair. Skylar is a transgender NCAA Division I swimmer who wrote the article, "OB is Man Enough." Due to the fact that he didn't see many books written about people like him, he put words to a page. He wanted to make sure that kids like him knew that they weren't alone. This is an understandable position. However, many LGBTQ+ materials hold highly inappropriate content, as referenced earlier. Reporter James Stratton describes how Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, aware of the many challenges issued by parents, brought this to light by reading a passage of a book called All Boys Aren't Blue. During the interview, she revealed sexually explicit scenes between two boys. Reynolds stated that the decision of whether to expose children to this content rests on the parents, who have the right to challenge the materials made available to children by the schools. As a result, the state senator plans to introduce a bill that makes it a felony for schools to promote and distribute obscene books. As Reynolds described this passage she read, rated R, this seems appropriate. Parents need some form of input of what their children have access to in schools and libraries. Inappropriate materials like Flamer or All Boys Aren't Blue were readily available to students and teens. With the intervention of parents, those books have been withdrawn from shelves. Books and words have power. As a child, after reading a comic book or a novel, I immediately wanted to become the main character portrayed, even if that character was Batman or Percy Jackson. Children are susceptible to influence by the media they consume. Inappropriate books in the hands of a child, and the recommendation of a well-liked teacher, might sway them to reject the teachings they were taught at home. This is why parents should have a say in the reading material available to students, restricting access to books. But what do teachers have to say about this? One particular teacher with the answer to this question was Miss Tara Adams, a Christian teacher and a mother whom I interviewed as a part of my research. In this article, she gave a powerful insight into the issue and offered a productive method for book banning. She states that parents should have a say, although a limited one, of what resides in schools. Yet she doesn't feel strongly that some books should not be banned due to their paramount experience within the pages. Thus, she believes that such material should be instead hidden within a guidance counselor's library. Other research students, unless permitted by a parent or a guardian. In addition, I asked Ms. Tara Adams about her thoughts on book banning. She noted that some teachers felt that any book was at risk of being banned, which limited the resources of the teacher, noting that many teachers had to go through their libraries and pull books that were deemed inappropriate or had not been removed. This took time out of a teacher's packed schedule. She further stated that certain books should not be prone to book banning, such as books on historical figures that should be overlooked. She stated, "I do feel strongly that books pertaining to a famous African American's life or narrative should not have been pulled. Some of these books portray white people in a negative light, so by pulling these books, children are not exposed to actual history. They're not exposed to the origins of the economic disparities or realities that are occurring in everyday America." This quote gives a first-hand account into the mind of a teacher who has seen the adverse effects of unrestricted book banning. Going further, changes that would help to lessen the harm done to teachers will be giving them a more prominent voice. By giving teachers some form of power, they can defend against some of the book challenges parents make. This will allow them to have some form of agency on what they teach, and what they could show, and change the minds of parents and whoever else is willing to listen. Book banning has struck the very faucet of creators, the literature, the authors. Jonah Winter recounts his tale of being a children's author targeted by social media. He opens by explaining the cancellation of a book called A Birthday Cake for George Washington. The book displayed images of smiling slaves, which launched a slew of social media warriors into action. It mattered not that the artist was black, or the darkness of the publisher's skin, or a towering presence within the children's book world. Void of any logic, this mob steamrolled any who would oppose their thoughts and canceled the book. This sent ripples through the writing world until the small waves arrived on Jonah Winter's life. He had approved the final draft of a children's book on slavery and had the contract ready to go. Yet the news about a birthday cake for George Washington made his editor gain cold feet. The contract was pulled from under him due to the fear imposed on his editor. It didn't matter that he didn't sugarcoat the horrors of slavery. It didn't matter about the awards he won from books based on racial justice. What mattered was his skin color and the subject of the book he had created. As time passed, an invisible code had manifested. The author's identity must match the subject of the book they write. It wasn't long until Jonah Winter's work was being attacked. One of his books detailing the events of an atomic bomb was accused of erasing American Indians. In the past, the book had rave reviews and was predicted to win a medal. Now it has turned into a collection of papers gathering dust. When he wrote an essay in 2019, he explained his experience. 2 months later, Debbie Rose, the blogger who had led previous similar campaigns against him, attacked him for not withdrawing his book after the criticism of it. Time after time, he was attacked until he was blacklisted and forced to become a newspaper writer. The story of Jonah Winter is just one of the many authors who have been made to cow down to the oppressive power of cancel culture and censorship itself. Barbara Van Denburg and Mary Caden wrote an extensive list featuring authors that were banned. Ashley Hope Prez, the author of the novel Out of Darkness, has had her books banned dozens of times since 2015. Each time was devastating. Out of Darkness is a book detailing the events of a teenage love affair between a Mexican-American girl an African-American boy during the 1930s. It was during Texas and during the New London school explosion. It serves as an insight to the historical depiction of Latino and Black experiences with racism. Yet due to the abuse and content that was deemed sexual in her writings, her book was banned. As a former high school teacher and a professor at Ohio State University, she feels saddened that students won't be able to read her books and others like it. Her and her coworkers have been harassed relentlessly for her writings. Both of these stories shows the pains and struggles that authors had to go through. Yet there are many, many more. People whose fingers were made to put letters to a page, ceasing from showing the world their works. Giving power not only to teachers but to librarians as well will lessen the financial effects on authors as much as their paycheck comes from book deals with libraries. The voice of cancel culture will quiet as self-proclaimed social justice warriors realize that their voice is not counting for what it used to. The Bible is the rules and lessons handed to us by God in the form of a book. So it must say something regarding this topic, right? The Bible recognizes that words have power, that parents have a role in all of it. Proverbs 22, verse 6 says, "Train up your child in the way he should go, that when he is old, he will not depart from it." This verse shows that a parent has a right and a responsibility in the training of their child. This, of course, includes things that the child is learning or being exposed to, such as books. Multiple verses discuss the power of words, such as this one from Proverbs 18:21. "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit." Or James chapter 3. "The tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness, and no human can tame it." In these verses, we see words that can sway a person's mind and even life. Thus, we should protect students' minds by restricting access to books that would influence them in negative ways. Finally, Romans 12:2 acknowledges that there is a danger in the world and shows how to combat it. The verse says, "Do not be conformed by this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, acceptable, and perfect." God wants us to think differently than the world around us, to use our thoughts, to use our reason. Yet it is impossible not to be influenced by the world in some way. However, by restricting access to certain books, we can lessen the negative effects the world might have. To protect the minds of young readers in schools and libraries, a limited form of book banning is necessary. We have explored the definition of book banning. Then we consider the productive removal of objectionable books and proposing changes to lessen the harm done to teachers and authors. So reach out to librarians, teachers, authors, politicians. See what you can do to help make the library in schools a safe place for children and students to learn without compromising literature. If we don't do anything to reform book banning, we'll lose precious examples of history. We'll lose teachers. We'll lose authors. We lose. Thank you. Any questions? Aaron.
So as a student, are there any websites or resources that might be good for any other students to go to where we can figure out whether a book is appropriate for us to read or not?
I believe the American Library Association is one of those resources, and that there's other resources that, He asked, are there any websites or things of that nature that you can go to help find what books are appropriate? I would say the American Library Association is one. You could talk to your mother or father about it, of course, or whoever is your guardian. And then there's also multiple reviews about books that you can find online. Any other questions? Emma Grace. Okay, if I could unban any book, which one would I unban? How to Kill a Mockingbird has been banned in a couple of states due to its racist content. Personally, as a child, I hated the book. I thought it was pretty racist, okay? But as I grew up, I kind of realized that the examples of it that were inside the writings is actually pretty prevalent to understanding history. Any other questions? He asked what my all-time favorite book is. That's going to have to be, what is it? Kings of the Wild. It's a it's an adult fantasy book. It's action, it's comedy, it's hilarious. I love it. Any other questions? Aaron?
So if we allow books to be banned, what safety measures can we ensure that like religious books, including Christian books, aren't going to be banned?
Okay, he asked if books are being banned, what measures can we take to make sure religious books and teachings of the Bible wouldn't be banned, right? Okay, that's actually a great question. Ron DeSantis was kind of pushing for that, and as I understand, the book banning thing he was pushing for kind of hit him back in the face because Bibles are kind of being, discriminated against now. So what I would say is to try to see both sides of your argument. The books you're trying to ban, try to understand why the other side doesn't want to ban them. You had to have some sort of agreement between sides in order not to get the Bible or other teachings like it banned. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.